Hello everyone, this is Biruda here. I am the founder and advisor of iGradGlobal.in. This is an initiative which I have created to guide and assist students in the admission process for studies abroad. I have been into this field, mentoring students, advising them with their various career options for the past decade or so. It's my passion to see that each and every student comes out successfully and gets an admission into a reputed university abroad. In our series of the global studies, today I'm going to talk to you and give you the different aspects about GMAT, the test prep strategies, how you need to take the GMAT, why you need to take the GMAT, when is the right time for you to take the GMAT, and what are the advantages of taking the GMAT test, what are the ideal scores. In the earlier slide, we've seen that we are going to be discussing different aspects of the GMAT test and its importance in the admission process to secure an admission in the top reputed B school. But before we can get to the GMAT and its preparation strategies and the importance and the test structure, let us first find out the benefits of an MBA degree globally. First and foremost, of course, the most obvious benefit would be increase in earning potential, becoming a global resource through networking. It will also help you in career enhancement. It will also expand your career options in different emerging fields. There are a few other students who would want to look at a career switch, changing what they are doing currently and look at a different career path. So the MBA also enables you to do a career switch. Having seen the importance of why you need to look at a global MBA degree, let us now find out what the GMAT test is all about. The name stands for Graduate Management Admission Exam, designed by Pearson VUE. It is accepted globally by all the universities like in US, Europe, UK, Asia and Canada. It is an entrance exam for most of the MBA programs, Masters in Management, Economics and Finance departments around the world. So most predominantly taken test is the GMAT. Now let us find out what are the skills that the GMAT test comprise of. What is it measuring from the students? The GMAT test measures verbal, quantitative and analytical skills. Besides, it also tests the endurance and ability of the candidate to focus for 4 hours. You need basic knowledge of grammar, language and math. As far as the test taking skills are concerned, you need an ability to make an intelligent guess, work at an appropriate pace and make decisions under pressure. It is also going to test you on the problem solving abilities. All in all, it is a test which is taken by all the MBA aspirants across the globe to give a general assessment of your verbal, quantitative and analytical skills globally and to ensure your readiness for the graduate studies. So when do you take the GMAT test? Now that you have understood the importance of the GMAT, what is the test all about, the kind of skills that it tests, let us find out what would be a good time for you to take the test. Most of the universities would start their intake in August, September every year, which means that you need to plan and take the GMAT in the previous year. An ideal time for you to take the GMAT would be around July, August of the previous year. For example, if you are applying for the August 2014 intake, you would ideally be looking at taking the GMAT by July, August of 2013. This would enable you to keep the scores ready before the deadlines of the universities, which would commence from September, October of 2013. We have seen when to take the GMAT test in the admission cycle. Now let us find out the GMAT test pattern. This is the old GMAT test pattern that I am going to present now. It is, as we have seen, it is a test of your verbal and quantitative ability. There are 3 sections: the analytical writing section, the quantitative section and the verbal section. Analytical writing section would comprise of 1 essay in the current pattern, which is the argument essay, and it has a standalone score of 0 to 6, which is a subjective rating. A good score on this would be a 4 on 6. The quantitative section would comprise of 37 questions, which would be of the type of problem solving or data sufficiency. The score would be between 200 to 800 and the duration would be 75 minutes. The verbal section on the other hand would have 41 questions to be answered in 75 minutes, and the types of questions would be sentence correction, critical reasoning and reading comprehension. The total score that the GMAT fetches you is 800. So a minimum of 200 to 800. The total duration for the test would be 3.5 hours. Next we will see the pattern changes that have taken place recently. Now that we have understood the old pattern of GMAT, which comprises of the verbal and the analytical section and the quantitative section, let's look at how the GMAT has changed since September 2012. There have been slight changes in the pattern. The analytical writing section, which consisted of 2 essays, have now consist of one essay, which is called the argument essay, for 30 minutes with a score of 0 to 6. There is a new section which includes data analysis kind of questions, and this is called as the integrated reasoning section on a scale of 0 to 8, and it is for 30 minutes. The quant and the verbal sections, as described earlier, would remain the same. Each would comprise of 37 questions and 41 questions respectively, and would be for a duration of 75 minutes. The total time taken for the test would be 3 hours 30 minutes. Let us now look at the specifics of each of the section on GMAT and understand what types of questions would you expect on this test, so that you will be able to better prepare and equip yourself with the question types. The first and foremost we'll take on will be the integrated reasoning section on GMAT. The different types of questions are outlined here. You have questions like table analysis, graphical representation, multi-source reasoning, where you have two parts related to each other and you have to reason out what's the best solution. You also have two-part analysis, which is correlated to the table analysis. Let us now see the specifics of the analytical writing section. It so happens that this is the second section of the test immediately after the integrated reasoning. The essay scores are marked between 0 to 6. Currently you have only one AWA topic, which is the argument type of topic. The analytical writing section has to be typed using a word processor, so you need to have a decent typing speed. What is expected of you in this analytical writing section is your ideas. It is not how much you know about the subject. It is about how well you can present your ideas. How you clearly organize and the flow of the ideas with good grammar, of course. Unlike the Microsoft Word, this word processor does not mark out your errors, spelling or sentence structure. Grammatical and spelling errors which you make would definitely affect your scores and would give you a penalty. Next, let us look at the quantitative section and its specifics. Some of the topics that you're going to see on the quantitative section of GMAT would be arithmetic, algebra, geometry, some amount of data analysis. The types of questions, totally as we have seen earlier, would be 37, and the two types of questions that you have are problem solving and data sufficiency. Problem solving questions would comprise 19 questions and data sufficiency would be 18 questions. On an average, you have about 2 minutes for each quantitative section. So which means that you need to pace the questions accordingly. Now let's look at the verbal section and its specifics. As discussed earlier, the verbal section has about 41 questions to be answered in 75 minutes, which means on an average you have about 1 minute, 1/3 of a minute for each verbal question. The three types of questions under verbal section would be sentence correction, where you have 15 questions, reading comprehension, where you have 15 questions, and critical reasoning, where you have approximately 11 questions to be answered. As far as GMAT is concerned, the verbal section forms the main section where you need to maximize your scores, so that you get an overall better score on the GMAT. Now let us find out what helps you strategize your scores. First and foremost, it is imperative for you to understand what computer adaptive pattern of the test of GMAT is all about. What does adaptive mean to you? Adaptive means that the test is adapting to your own profile. It is adapting to your own aptitude. Initially, when you start with a question, it starts at a moderate level. The student can then move on to the next question only if he has answered the previous question correctly. This answer will then decide which question he gets next. If the student answers the first question wrong, the next question will go to the next lower level of difficulty. If the student answers the question right, then the next question would be of a higher level. So which means higher the difficulty level, the more the points you can bag. Further, as far as the computer adaptive test is concerned, the first 1/3 questions are the most crucial in terms of setting the result for the student. In a set of 30 questions, the first 10 questions are very important to your scores. The subsequent scores will only support the initial scores. There is always a penalty for unanswered questions which is higher than the incorrect questions. Now, to explain this, you need to understand that you cannot leave anything unanswered. You will have to proceed by answering the questions as they come. You cannot skip the question. Also, if you lack in time management and if you leave out the last 2-3 questions, there wouldn't be much fluctuation in your score, provided you have gone correct on the initial 10 or 15 questions of the section. So let us now recap some of the strategies that we've discussed for the computer adaptive test. There are 3 aspects that you need to be aware of. Focus more time on the earlier questions than the later questions. The computer adaptive test puts more emphasis on the earlier questions than the latter questions. The computer has to make large jumps to estimate your score for each of the first few questions. The latter questions are only used to fine-tune your score. The second aspect is that the harder questions count more than the easier ones. Simple questions might be easier to answer, but they count less. The third aspect, which is very important on a test like GMAT, which is adaptive in nature, is that you eliminate the answer choices you know are wrong. Even if you don't know the right answer, you have to use some intelligent elimination process so that you can choose one of the answers without going wrong. So having seen the test pattern and some of the tips and strategies to be used to approach the computer adaptive test, let us look at some of the generic things that are important for the test preparation. As you are aware, it is a test of English, that's verbal skills and quantitative skills. So improving your basic English reading skills are very important for a good score on GMAT. Read the editorials in Times of India and Hindu regularly. Mark the difficult words and make flashcards for the same. Make a note of all the articles you read. This ensures that you comprehend these passages, especially useful for the reading comprehension section. Now, in order to improve your basic math skills, you need to list out the formulae in algebra, geometry and mensuration. See that you know your tables up to 30. It would also help you to know the squares, cubes and square roots and cube roots of numbers up to 30. It would also be helpful to know fractions, conversion fractions such as half, one-third, one-fourth into decimals. Conversion from billions to crores, millions into lakhs, into thousands, and to know the number of zeros in each case. These are some basic skill sets that you need to develop over a period of time if you have to ace the GMAT test. What is a good score on GMAT? You have prepared for the test regularly. Now you would also want to know what kind of milestone you need to achieve to get into the best of the B schools abroad. The GMAT, as you have seen, is scored over a range of 800. A good competitive score would be a 700 plus on the 800 scale of verbal and quant. On the analytical writing, a band of 4 on 6 would be a great score. Whereas in integrated reasoning, anything above a 5 on 8 is a good score. The scores would be available to you on the screen as soon as you have taken the test, especially on the verbal and the quantitative section. These scores are mailed to you in 2-3 weeks after the test. These scores are technically valid for 5 years, but most of the universities would not accept scores older than 2 years. On the test day, in the test registration fee, which is currently $250, a test taker can send scores to up to 5 universities of their choice, provided you have done your research of the universities. Additional score reporting can also be done at a cost of $29 per university. You would be able to send additional scores online through the test registration site, which is mba.com. GMAT test registration. As mentioned earlier, GMAT is conducted by Pearson VUE throughout the year for the convenience of the test takers. You can register for the GMAT test on the website mba.com. The current test registration fee is $250, which can be paid by credit card, Visa, Master or American Express. On the test day of the GMAT, you need to follow certain rules and regulations. You need to get to the center on time. You also need to carry the test email confirmation sent to you. The only identification documents that would be valid for taking the GMAT test would be a passport. Your name in the application must be exactly like what it appears on your passport. You would not be entertained in the test if you do not have the passport with you. You would be sent back and the attempt would be null and void. So you lose out on that attempt. So please remember to carry your passport and the test email confirmation for the test. Having given you the brief steps involved and the different aspects that you need to keep in mind as far as the GMAT test prep is concerned, here are some 5 steps to a graduate business degree of your choice. Assess your strengths. Know what you are good at so that you can highlight and present this when you are sending in your GMAT application. Decide your career path. You need to be very clear about what you want to do after your MBA degree. First and foremost, be sure as to why you want to do that MBA degree. Then, you also need to know whether you suit a particular B school. Do not randomly choose any B school just because you have heard it from your seniors or from your friends and relatives. It would be futile to apply without taking a good score. See that you study hard and do a focused preparation as far as the GMAT test is concerned, as described earlier. As mentioned earlier, see that you choose your school and program carefully. Take any professional guidance if required. So please remember, these are the 5 important steps to get into a top reputed graduate business school. Having said enough about the GRE score and having bagged a good GRE score, is that enough to get an admission into a good reputed university abroad? I would say 1/3 the battle is won here. You have a great decent score of GRE, let's say 320 plus. You have great academics. But what also matters, equally important in the admission process, is the rest of the admission process guidance. how you select the universities, whether they suit your profile, whether they have the right course that you want to apply to, whether they are accepting students of your profile. How do you go about presenting your documents, which are the statement of purpose, which is your career goals? How do one put down your resume? And most of the times universities would require a one-pager resume. How should you get the recommendation letters and whom should you ask them for? How do I go and speak to a visa officer? How do I present myself in an interview? These are very common things that bog down students, and since the admission process is time consuming and tedious, professional help from experts would definitely help you. Let me tell you how we at iGrad Global can help you. We have been into this field, as mentioned earlier, for a decade plus. So which means we have the expertise of having guided 2000 plus students globally in different countries. Different courses. There have been niche courses like computational fluid dynamics, financial engineering, you name it and you have it. The other advantage of this professional guidance would be you would also be able to get convenient and effective online counseling. The entire model of this process is devised in such a way that students can access the counseling from wherever they are, pan-India at this point of time. There would be regular online webinars and workshops at each step of the process from expert advisors. If this is not enough, we also offer mentoring through an advisory panel of past students. Now they always say that experience counts. So if some of the students have had a similar profile as yours, they would be more than glad to help you in addressing a few of your admission queries. In a nutshell, iGrad Global would guide you in all the steps of the admission process very professionally and see that you succeed in your journey to get admissions into graduate studies at top reputed colleges. So having said that, your pathway to success begins here at iGrad Global. You might wonder what this name stands for, but when I took the initiative of starting iGrad Global, it just simply means I graduate globally. So as the name suggests, we start right from counseling you regarding your specializations. In my experience, many a times I've noticed that students are not very clear about which course and which specialization to select. For example, a student would come and say, "Ma'am, I would want to do a master's in computer science." Then I would go further and ask him, "Could you tell me what under computer science?" He would say, "Computer science. I mean, that's what I want to do." But you should be aware that computer science is a very vast subject. So at a master's level, it is always good to specialize. Having specialized in one particular specialization gives you an edge over other students when you look for career opportunities. For example, if a student has done a master's computer science with networking as a specialization, he has a better earning potential than a student who has done a plain simple computer science master's. So this is how we shortlist the universities for you. Secondly, we also take into consideration constraints that you have as far as the selection of universities are concerned. In terms of location, if you want to look at US, you want to look at any other countries, or if you have any cost constraints, you want to look at a 1-year program or a 2-year program. The third and the most important step to your success would be the evaluation of the documents. Now this is a very intricate and elaborate task, and we have experts who would guide you on evaluating your SOPs, your essays and your resume and the recommendation letters. We will try to put in your best strengths and potential forward so that you are able to present your application with your full potential. We'll also guide you on helping the application, filling the application forms and the financial statements for the queries that you would have. Last but not the least, once you have secured an admission into the university, the job does not end there. What if you do not make it through the visa? Hence, we would provide you with expert guidance on the visa documents and also conduct mock interviews wherever required. So in a nutshell, we would be hand-holding you in the entire application process, right from your test prep to till the time you actually fly to your destined university. Having spoken to you about the entire application process and the test, that is the GRE test, and how you prepare on the various aspects of the GRE test, and how finally you get an admission into a good reputed global university, let me quote some references. You could refer to the gre.org for your GRE test prep and registration. You could also refer to the TOEFL.org, which is a language test you need to take in addition to GRE. For any other queries on the admissions, you could contact me at biruda@igradglobal.in. I also have listed down my website here, that is www.igradglobal.in, and I've also mentioned my phone number. For any test preparation related queries, you could get in touch with Anil Nair Classes. The contact information would be info@anilnairclasses.com. The website would be anilnairclasses.com, and of course, you could contact us on the phone. We have a center at Amirpet, and the number would be 829-721-2234. Thanks a lot for hearing me out.